Welcome to Work-Life Balance and Wellbeing at a webinar that HDK are running today. I wanted to start off with a fact. 48% of employees say that they regularly work outside contracted hours, often unpaid. It's those kinds of statistics that have informed today's session and inspired us to run a session like this. We normally run sessions around digital marketing, specifically around digital marketing and website technology. HDK is an agency that builds websites, runs social media campaigns, strategies, integrates technology. And so we're always in this digital world, and that clearly has some great benefits and things such as working hybrid, but it also can have some negative impacts as well. And that's the thing that we wanted to address and explore further in today's session. So I'm going to give a little bit more time for some more latecomers to arrive. But in doing so, there's a few of you have bared with the technical problems this morning. So we'd love you to introduce yourself into the chat box. So find the chat box while you can. Say who you are, who you work for, or what work you do, and maybe one thing that you did last night to reduce the to switch off from work, as it were. So, what did you do to switch off from work last night? In the chat box, who you are and where you and who you work for. I'm going to go quiet for a few more minutes just to let you focus on responding to that question and to allow any more latecomers to arrive, and then we'll carry on with introductions of the speakers. Thank you, Andrea, for being not only the first off the block, but to talk about running in the park. I think that's an excellent way of switching off. I'm going to read a couple more out as you're putting them in. Hello, Charlotte. You switched off by getting dinner with a friend. That sounds a great way to do midweek, early week as well on a Monday. Wow. I bet you that really helps to switch off from work. Maria, hello. You switched off your phone for 2 hours before going to bed. That's a really interesting one, and I think we'll pick up on that later with other people who've been trying to do the same thing. Assassin's Creed on the PlayStation. Wow. Yeah, you can't really think about work when you're doing that sort of thing. And Rian, I hope that's how you pronounce your name. You went for a walk after work late last night. Me, not particularly exciting, but I like to watch drama series on TV. That's what I did to switch off last night. So thank you for yoga class as well. Yeah, that's a really good one to do. So thank you. Keep those coming in if you haven't completed your introductions yet. I'm going to continue with the introduction of your speakers for today. So, my name is Hans. I'm director and founder at HDK. I am a whitish male in my mid-50s with bald to cropped hair and trimmed beard, brown eyes, wearing a blue shirt. My pronouns are he, him. And why I'm talking today, I think I've been in the workforce for 35 years. I've got a couple of stories I'm going to share, but I'm also an employer. So I can influence the culture at HDK in terms of setting good working practices. So that's my angle for today. Fiz.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Fiz. I'm part of the digital marketing team here at HDK. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a white woman in my mid-20s with short brown hair. And today I'm wearing this brown woolly jumper that you can kind of see. Being part of the digital marketing team, I know what it's like to have so many different campaigns running and you're spinning plates, and I know what it's like to work in that kind of really busy, fast-paced environment. So hopefully I can share some of my own findings with you all today.
And hi, my name's Linus. I am the web support manager here at HDK. My pronouns are also he, him, and I am also a bald man in my early 30s. And I'm speaking today because I run the support desk here at HDK. So we get lots of different issues in throughout the day. So it can be difficult sometimes managing the ticket desk, which is why I'm speaking today.
Great, yeah. So you've got a lot of high priority tickets that you're constantly juggling, aren't you? And that
Exactly,
adds
high
pressure.
priority, sometimes low priority
Yeah,
that we've had on there for a while.
yeah,
But they all need to get booked in. Everything needs to get done, and it is all about kind of managing the workload.
yeah. Great, thank you. So, yes, I think that really illustrates that we're not talking to you from the position of being experts today. We're talking to you from people who have experience to share. And in that sense, today's format is our usual format. We've got different topics that we're going to go through, but also leave time for discussion. That's really important today. So that because we think that you've got some great ideas to share at some points as well. So we hope to glean that from you as well. And I guess to set the tone and the expectation around today's session. There'll be lots of things that you probably have thought about and done yourself in the past. Use this hour to invest in yourself, if you like. It's about your own well-being. So being focused in today's session is going to be really important. Because you might not only might you learn something new, and we've got lots of sort of tips to share. It might just be a chance to reflect on things you're already trying. Can you do it better? Does it really work for you? So this is a chance for us all to reflect on how we can improve and work towards better working practices. I'm going to start off, sorry, Fiz. I'm going to start off talking about why it's important to set those boundaries. Fiz is going to talk about creating healthy and productive workflows. And Linus is going to talk about stress management practices. So lots of tips packed into those bits. And then, as I said, there's hopefully some time for discussion. We'll go over the 11:30 ending slot today. So if you can't stick around for that, there'll be a chance to catch up what we talk about there on the blog and on the recorded video. So I guess moving on from there, I guess it's a question to Linus. We set ourselves a task. Do you want to explain what that was, Linus?
Yeah, so at the start of September, our HDK team here, we set ourselves a well-being challenge. So everyone chose one or two small habits to test out. So that was things like Bella, she focused on reducing screen time and getting her steps in. Kay, she planned for short yoga sessions and even bubble blowing for stress relief. And then Roz wanted to use meditation before stressful meetings, whilst Zoe committed to turning her phone off from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. There were loads of more things, but we're going to touch back on this a little later in the webinar.
Right, thank you, Linus. So I wanted to talk about setting boundaries and why this is important. And I guess for me, it's starting off reflecting on my own journey, my own experience in the workplace. And I'm taking myself back more than 20 odd years to a job I'd taken in a theatre, in a venue. It was a new venue. It was setting up a lot of new technology. And for me, it was a promotion from my last job. So I was really keen to impress and prove myself. But I'd taken a job on as marketing manager, but this job was really quite technical. And although I was interested in that sort of stuff, I certainly wasn't a trained IT person. So I was grappling with technology I didn't understand particularly well, but also the people around me couldn't really help me. So I was having to figure things out for myself. And that in itself was a good thing for me. But what it did lead to was me working long hours after everyone had left the theatre on dark nights. Running around from finding server rooms tucked away in the roof in odd places of the building, and really and that in itself the not really knowing what I was doing, trying to work the solutions out, was something that lasted for many months in this place. I have to say it was not a criticism of my employer. It's really about how I chose to to set boundaries, of which I wasn't very good at. I didn't talk to my manager about the issues. I was worried, I guess, it would reflect badly on me. So I was always trying to sort these things out and work extra hours. And I think that for me started to set a pattern of work that I saw through. Many years later, or a few years later, when I was first self-employed, there were different issues and challenges that face me. And if any of you are freelancers or have your own business or self-employed, you'll know that there's always that threat of where will the next job come from, that makes you work maybe into the long hours. And certainly in the first few years, I was working late nights, working weekends, and that sort of spilled out into my home life, of course. So those are things that have then since then have taken me years to sort of unpick and try and instill better practices, which I think I'm not so bad at doing now. I've really learned how to switch off in the evenings and at the weekends and set boundaries for myself. I want to ask you a question. I've got two polls to run for you now. My first poll is how many of you are working out of hours? How many of you regularly work weekends or out of office hours? Choose one of those answers, please. Let that go up for a few moments and see where that goes. So, of course, when I say regularly work, that's for you to self-determine what that means. You'll feel whether you're working too much or not enough at all. So, I think we've got nearly everyone participating in the poll now. So I'm going to end the poll and share those results for you. Share results. So we've got 59% saying that you regularly work out of office hours. Now, I've got some stats. I mentioned one at the beginning. So 48% of employees say they regularly work outside of the contracted hours, often unpaid. Now, it's interesting that we're not a scientific poll here, but we've got nearly 60%. And I think that's not surprising that for us who work in the arts, where we're often managing low resources, that's slightly higher than this survey. Another survey does suggest that 50% of remote hybrid workers say they work outside traditional hours at least once a week, and that's a Microsoft survey from 2022. And again, there's that thing that when we work from home, when we're working remotely, our office is at home, or our computers are at home. It's so easy to spill over into working out of office hours as well. I've got another poll I'm going to get you to share. This one is how many often check messages and emails while watching TV at the gym or while doing other non-work activities. So this is more about the multitasking. And yes, quite frequently, or no, it's rare for me to do so. I am sure there is no one who doesn't ever do it, but it's just getting that balance again here. And I think I'm going to give a few more seconds, 5 more seconds, 3 more seconds, and then I'm going to end this poll and share the results. There we go. 76% are frequently checking messages and emails while doing other activities. I guess the lesson here is that we do it, we instinctively do it because the technology makes it really easy. But really, how effective is it for us to be multitasking like that? There's a lot of research suggests that it causes stress to do that. It takes time to switch between tasks. It takes much longer than you realize to switch from one thing to another, and that can help. That means that we're not properly effectively resting, and rest is really important to help reduce the stress of work, to help us be more effective in the long run. So we think that we're being efficient by multitasking often, but in reality, our brains just switch quickly between tasks, and that switching can often be quite tiring for us as well. So a reminder, a prompt there, if you like, just to really be conscious of when you are checking messages when you're supposed to be on downtime. So I said we're going to talk about setting boundaries and what the criteria for setting boundaries, or why it's important to set boundaries. And I've got 3 reasons for why it's important to set boundaries. So I've missed a couple of stats out. Thank you, Fizz. 47% of employees deliberately carve out digital silence time, periods without emails, calls, or notifications. So if anything, is that number 47% high? Is it low? What do you think of that? Is it giving us a sign that actually enough of us are already starting to react to that always on culture and trying to carve out that silence time, which is maybe something for hope, but something that can be built on with more of us doing the same thing? So, three reasons to set boundaries on the next slide. And on the next one. So the first one is about protecting our health and well-being. So this is about how not switching off can affect your sleep. It certainly affects my sleep. I can wake up early in the morning if I'm working late at night because my brain hasn't quite switched off, and it can spill out to your home life as well. Then there's the if that's happening, it's what it does to your productivity and creativity. If you're constantly tired or anxious from working, not getting that balance right, that can affect the decisions you make. It can you think about that person who's always stressed at work, who overreacts to the smallest setback. All these things can affect your work. And finally, it's important to set boundaries in terms of protecting the culture and expectations of the people around you. So again, if you are a person who influences others, who manages other people, who's in a leadership role, it's important to switch off yourself and show others that it's okay to do so. And it's important that if you're constantly responding to messages late at night, that people around you feel that that's what's expected, and then they do the same, and that it doesn't give them permission to get that right balance between work and life as well. So those are some reasons to set important boundaries. Fiz, you're going to talk about how we can do productive workflows.
Yeah, so hopefully in this section, you'll get some tips that you can actually implement into your everyday working life that will hopefully ease stress and help those workflows to be improved. Like I said earlier, I know what it's like in digital marketing, where you've got so many different projects on. And sometimes you think, oh, I haven't even got time to breathe. And that's where workflows really come into their own. Without them, the risk of stress and burnout is really real. But hopefully, with these workflow tips, you can give yourself some more time and a little bit more mental clarity. So, where do we start? And that's with a good plan, of course. So, I think it's really important to plan your day with intention. So, when you're setting yourself up for the workday, ask yourself, what absolutely must get finished today? How can I end the day feeling fulfilled? And what will make my week easier? These three questions should help you to prioritize not only what needs to be done immediately, but also what tasks will help you plan your whole week more effectively. I know it's really easy to ignore the hard tasks and push them back until the final minute. But by tackling them head on like this and always making sure you prioritize these daily tasks, hopefully you reduce any feelings of worry about them later down the line. So, when is the best time to plan? I personally like a 9 a.m. plan. I like to do it first thing in the morning with a cup of coffee when I'm feeling rested and ready for the day. But I have colleagues who swear by a 5 p.m. action plan at the end of the workday while everything is really fresh in their mind. In all honesty, from all the reading that I've done for this webinar and about planning, it seems that it doesn't really matter. As long as you are planning, you're getting ahead of everybody else who maybe starts their day without an action plan in mind. So once you've got that plan for the day, it's then really important to find a work rhythm that works for you. We all know that feeling of when you're being really productive and you sort of get into this flow state, and that's when some of the best work happens. A really useful tip here is to start your mornings with small, easy wins. That might mean clearing 2 or 3 quick emails or finishing a short task that maybe you can do without much brain power. So for me, that is when I'd like to do community engagement on social media platforms for our clients. I find this quite an easy task that I can just tick off straight away. And by doing that, I'm building this idea of momentum. And I get that sense of progress straight away, which is apparently very good for your brain. And it makes tackling the bigger things much less daunting. It makes tackling those bigger tasks feel much less daunting. I would also advise, when you can, to work with your natural energy patterns. We all work differently, so it's really about finding what works for you. But I know that I'm most focused in the morning, so I try to protect that time where I can for deeper work. And then I book meetings in the afternoon when maybe my energy is a little lower, or for work that I don't need to focus so hard on. If you find it difficult to find a rhythm when it comes to work, there are different techniques that you can try. One is the Pomodoro technique, and you might have heard of this. It was something that I was taught in school. But it's where you choose a task, you then set a timer for 25 minutes. You focus on the task for this 25 minutes without any distractions. And then you enjoy a quick 5-minute break before repeating this cycle 4 times or until you finish the task. There's also time boxing. Again, you might have heard of this. This is actually what I do, and this is my preferred method. But time boxing is where you allocate specific chunks of your calendar to certain tasks. So, for example, I might carve out 2 hours of my day today for doing a report. And by allocating a very specific amount of time, I feel that my brain is then able to focus for that period, and I will work to the end time that I have in mind. If I don't set that time aside, and if I'm not really strict with those 2 hours, what might happen is that I then get distracted, I check my emails, I go and look at some social media trends, and then I won't be able to settle and get the work done. Like I said, there's really no one size fits all. The key is experimentation until you find something that feels natural and something that works for your wider team too. So I'm going to touch a little bit on tools and technology here. The right tools can really help to streamline your workflow, and I'm sure that you already have some tools that you use. The first one that I recommend is a project management tool. And obviously, this is a bit of an investment or something that your organization might already have set up. At HDK, we use Asana for project management, but there are plenty of others. At a previous job, I used Trello, but I know there's also Monday.com. And I also know people who actually sort of manually use a project management tool just on Google Sheets, and they fill it in themselves. The point is, don't rely on your memory alone. Having your tasks written down and visible and seeing that progress is really important in helping to reduce the mental load. And a lot of these PM tools have really amazing abilities that help you stay on track. So if you haven't seen an Asana board, I'll show you quickly now a screenshot. This isn't ours, this is just a random screenshot that I found. But you have your tasks, you have who it's assigned to, a due date. You can even put in the estimated time frame that you might need. So if you were, say, manually creating something on Google Sheets, you could follow a similar pattern. I've also got a screenshot here of Trello. Trello is a bit more visual, so it's quite good if you're somebody that works with a lot of graphics, a lot of pictures or videos, because you can sort of pin them to bigger boards and see them while you're working. So again, a good option. I also think that you could look at automation to help with your workflows. So it wouldn't be a HDK webinar without mentioning AI. But tools like ChatGPT, for example, can be really good at helping you summarize meeting notes, drafting emails, brainstorming some ideas. So they're great for clearing sort of the small tasks so that you can focus on the bigger picture. And finally, I'm just going to mention time tracking. In agencies, this is sort of standard practice, but I know that in-house, you have no need really to do time tracking. However, I think when I first moved to an agency, it was really eye-opening how long I was spending on, say, small admin tasks or certain work that shouldn't be taking me as long as it was. So if you can, just use your phone, use a spreadsheet just to pop down how long tasks are taking you. And once you've done that, you might be able to adjust your workflow so that actually you can fit more into your day. And one final tip, thanks to Linus here, is the power of music. So some people find isochronic music or ambient background tracks really help them get into that state of flow. If you haven't heard of isochronic music, it's music that uses rapid, evenly spaced pulses of sound to help your brain enter a more focused state. And this can apparently improve concentration. It's definitely not for everyone. I have to be honest here. I personally am not a big fan. I like quite mellow music if I want to be concentrating. But Linus thinks it works great for him. So if you haven't heard of it, it might be worth exploring. So you've got your tools and you've planned out your day. Now, here are just a few extra tips to make it as easy as possible for yourself. The first one, I'm sure that we've said that we're going to do this every single time we start a work day, but try and be realistic. I think overpromising feels really good in the moment, and you think, yes, I can definitely do this. But it can lead to really unnecessary stress if you're not being honest with yourself about the time that you have to complete tasks. And you also really don't want to burn yourself out. Again, another common problem within organizations, meetings. Do you really need those meetings? You could instead write an email, put it in a shared document. But if you do need it, just make sure that you keep it short, focused, and make sure everyone knows exactly what the next steps are once they leave the meeting. And remember, you're not a superhuman. And at the end of the day, marketing is just marketing. I know that it feels super important for work, and I really know the feeling of trying to cram as much into the week as possible, but you can only get done what you can. And preferably, obviously, that is within work hours. So don't be too hard on yourself. So just remember that these small changes can make a really big impact. So even by tweaking a few things, hopefully you'll be able to improve your workflow. So enough of me talking. Quick question for you all. What's the one tool or process that saves you the most time in your day? Is there something that I haven't mentioned that you really enjoy? Maybe it's a style of working, like the Pomodoro technique, or is there something when you're planning every day that you like to do? I know my colleague, for example, she'll do what's a priority, what's not a priority, what's urgent, what's not. So let me know in the chat if there's something that comes to mind. Google Calendar, yeah, Google Calendar's got some really great features actually. Tell people you're offline, yeah, I've also done that. Hands is an old-fashioned list, that works as well. Trello, priority lists, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a good idea from Rianne, keeping a list of tasks to do today and then a separate overall list of tasks and projects. I think that's really useful. Yeah, and again, this idea of not overwhelming yourself by only putting maybe 1 to 3 things, I think is a great idea. I I definitely add more than 3 things, I'll be honest. But I think 3 is probably a great number to use. Post-its, yeah, post-its are great. And more colors, the better. Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for those answers. I think we got some really good ideas there. So to summarize my section before we move into Linus's part of the presentation, workflows are there to create freedom and focus, not restriction. Plan your day around your energy, batch your tasks if possible, and try and find a rhythm that works for you. Use tools and technology to help, from project management tools to automations and time tracking. And if you've got a bit of software that your organization uses that you've never even tried, why not give it a go? It might actually really help. And finally, be realistic. Make sure that you have deadlines you can actually meet and make sure that those meetings are necessary. And now I'm going to move on to Linus.
Thank you very much, Fiz. So I would like to close today's content by talking about stress management practices. The small and not so small actions that can make a big difference in preventing burnout and helping us sustain our energy. So, unfortunately, stress is inevitable, especially in fast-paced roles, and I think especially in digital marketing, where deadlines move quickly and priorities can change by the hour. But how we manage this stress determines whether it becomes motivating or overwhelming. So I'm just going to go through a few stress management practices that could maybe help some of you. The first one of these is micro breaks. So this is something as simple as taking a walk at lunchtime or stepping away from your desk for 5 minutes. It can help you reset your focus. And research actually shows that micro breaks can help reduce fatigue and restores attention. For example, a 2016 review in Cognition noted that attention tends to decline with prolonged tasks, but micro breaks for just a few minutes will help reset cognitive control. Giving recognition. This doesn't just boost others, but it reduces stress for you too. So these can be small gestures like a dedicated Slack channel, just a quick shout out in a team meeting, or an informal thank you. It all helps create a culture where people feel supported. And research from the American Psychological Association found that employees who feel valued report lower stress levels, greater well-being, and a stronger engagement at work. The next one is movement. And I know a bunch of you mentioned this in the chat earlier, but physical activity is one of the most effective stress relievers you can do. I personally try to lift weights a few times a week. And I know that our colleague Roz makes sure she hits 10,000 steps every day. And she'll tell you that it's one of the best ways to clear her head and keep her energy levels steady. Now here on the screen, you can see our colleague Tor taking a reading micro break in a park close to the office. And there's a photo from one of Roz's evening walks along, I think that's the River Lee, but let me know if I'm wrong in the comments. And here is our colleague Raf enjoying a little micro break, touching grass in a green space. And here is our colleague Kay blowing bubbles on her cat.
I was going to say, that's not Kay.
No. Autonomy and trust is the next thing. And this is all about giving people as much autonomy as possible. It helps reduce stress. So that's just letting your team members decide how best to approach a task or manage their schedule. It builds confidence and it also builds resilience. Trying something new can shift focus, spark curiosity, and build resilience as well. It offers a fresh perspective, breaks routine, and encourages growth. And this helps reduce stress and restores balance in your life. And there's actually science behind this. Studies show that novelty activates their brain's dopamine system, which boosts mood, motivation, and even memory. And psychologists have also found that new experiences build resilience by helping us adapt to change. And people who try a wider variety of activities tend to report higher life satisfaction overall. So even small things like a new walk, a new recipe, or picking up a new hobby can reduce stress and give us a real lift. Alongside micro breaks, however, I think it's just as important to take extended time off. Now, I've actually just come back from a 2.5 week honeymoon, and it really reminded me how powerful a proper break can be. Stepping away for longer, so stepping away from your work for longer stretches, it lowers systemic built-up stress and allows you to return to your work feeling refreshed. And personally, I just try to get to the point where I'm actually bored of my holiday. And that's how I know I'm properly rested and ready to come back with energy. And it's about 2 weeks for me. And I'm only partially using this webinar to share some of my honeymoon snaps there. You can see a nice view of Florence on the right there. And one of the portraits in the Uffizi. And just for fun, can we name that rotund little boy there? Can we name the portrait of that little baby that you can find in the Uffizi in Florence? It is not Da Vinci, in fact. I'm thinking a Medici member. You have been part of this webinar, Hans, though, so I think you know it's a Medici
That was
member.
that. To be fair, that was my
Yeah,
first response.
it was when we were practicing this. Hans did actually guess Medici, but if you know anything about Florence, it's a pretty easy guess. It is in fact Giovanni de' Medici.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
No, he wasn't a very famous Medici. He died at 19. He was a
Oh,
cardinal though.
ah,
And here next is a snap of Fiz's guitar. She's been enjoying learning something new, but I'm being told that it's pretty slow going, which is no doubt building resilience for her. The next thing, which you should do if you're a leader, is lead by example. So leaders, you got to set the tone. So if you're working at night or on the weekend, just use an email scheduling tool so that messages actually go out during office hours. This sends a clear signal that downtime is respected. And we are really big fans of scheduled emails and Slack messages here at HDK. It allows us to switch off properly every evening, which is very nice. We've also found that regular opportunities to discuss workloads, like default agenda items in your calendar, or just a weekly meeting where we sit down and discuss a workload. This will provide early warning signals if things are off balance. And then finally, we measure. So we use a system called Office Vibe, and this gives us hard figures that allows us to track morale and stress levels across the team. And this data, again, it helps spot patterns early so that we can act before the stress escalates into burnout. So earlier, we mentioned that our HEK team had set ourselves a few well-being challenges for September, trying out small habits like walks, screen time limits, meditation, or bubble blowing, as you saw. So how did this go? And I think some people didn't manage to complete everything that they set out to do, but everyone noticed positive changes from even small shifts. So Hans and Ross, they said that their mood
we basically
was
walked.
lifted
Yeah,
by their walks.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And even though that some of your walks actually ended up in a bakery at the end, but I'm sure
yeah,
that lifted your mood even more.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Raf highlighted that just the daily walk in the green space, it's a way to both rest his eyes and his mind. And I think that the main takeaway from this is that well-being isn't just about big gestures. It's about experimenting with small habits, seeing what sticks, and then noticing how even tiny changes can make a real difference.
I think that's the key thing for me is that it's a constant journey for those of us who have been working longer. And different techniques, I guess, are going to work at different times, life stages as well. But it's constantly trying to work out new ways to manage those the work-life balance and techniques like that. So I think that's really really important. Okay, thank you, Linus. I hinted at future webinars. We've got the webinars already on the website for October, November, and December. You can go up and sign up for those now if you haven't already. But also, any of you who completed our more extended survey recently, that's really informed our program that we're developing for 2026. So we'll be announcing the new program for 2026 in the coming month, October. So if you want to make sure you're the first to hear about the exciting changes where we've listened to what you want, join up to our newsletter. That link's going to come up in the chat box as well, and you can be the first to hear about the new webinar season that we're planning for next year and the changes that we're going to bring in as well. So do sign up for that. I think that's all the housekeeping. What's on the next slide? Yeah, just a chance to summarize what we've talked about today. It's all about life-work balance and well-being. I started talking about the importance of setting boundaries. We talked about creating healthy and productive workflows within the work so you can reduce the stress at work. And Linus shared a list of stress management practices, tips, and ideas, things that you might want to explore, go take further with you and explore. So, with all of that in mind, if you can find the chat box again, what are the tips that you have picked up today? What are the reminders of things you'd already been thinking about? What is it that you might take from today and explore further or revisit or practice in the future? What are the things that stood out for you today as things that you might adopt or carry on forward? So put those answers in the chat box. That will help other people to remind of the ideas that came up in today's discussion. Pomodoro. Does anyone know why it's called Pomodoro? Apparently, the inventor of it had a timer that was shaped like a tomato. Um, so yeah, thank you, Andrea. And Angus, definitely workflow management tools. Yes, I think that's really useful. For me, I'm very interested to explore, what was it called? Isochromatic music, Linus? Was it isochromatic music? I think I'm getting
Isochronic tones, which
isochronic.
is, I don't know how backed up by science this is, but I think, was it Rian? If you like listening to music, I can recommend a YouTuber called Jason Lewis, and he does a series of it's lots of different kinds of music, but I just maybe go through a few of his videos on YouTube and then just see if any of them stick. I've gone through, I mean, probably dozens of his videos, and I have a playlist now of maybe like 12 hours of music that I can switch on at the beginning of the day and then just listen to that all day.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Yeah, and being realistic about what you can actually do in a day, I think that's a really important tip as well. Great. I think that's probably all of the discussion in today's session. We look forward to seeing you again in future webinars. And do look out for our new program, which has got some exciting changes, which we'll be announcing in October. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. And good luck with getting that work-life balance. Thank you. Bye.